Okay, I'm going to pick up where I left off with the chores. And here is the picture of Laura and Mary making the bed. By the time the dishes were all wiped and set away, the trundle bed was aired. Then, one by one on each side, Laura and Mary straightened the covers, tucked them in well at the foot and the sides, plumped up the pillows, and put them in place. When Ma pushed the trundle bed into its place under the big bed. After that, everything was done, and Ma began the work that belonged to that day. Each day had its own proper work. Ma used to say, wash on Monday, iron on Tuesday, mend on Wednesday, churn on Thursday, clean on Friday, bake on Saturday, rest on Sunday. Churn on Thursday. What is churning? What do you think is meant by churning? I want you to answer me in the comments if you can. Laura liked the churning in the baking days best of all the week. In the winter, the cream was not yellow. Oh, it's going to answer your question. The cream was not yellow as it was in summer, and butter churned from it was white and not so pretty. Ma liked everything on her table to be pretty, so in the wintertime, she colored the butter. After she had put the cream in the tall crockery churn and set it near to the stove to warm, she washed and scraped the long orange-colored carrot. Then she grated it in the bottom of the old leaky tin pan that Pa had punched holes full of nails for her. Ma rubbed the carrot against the roughness until she had rubbed it all through the holes, and when she had lifted the pan, there was a soft, juicy mound of grated carrot. She put this in a little pan of milk on the stove, and when the milk was hot, she poured the milk and carrot into a cloth bag. Then she squeezed the bright yellow milk into the churn, where it colored all the cream. Now the butter would look yellow. Laura and Mary were allowed to eat the carrot after the milk had been squeezed out. Mary thought she ought to have the larger share because she was older, and Laura said she should have it because she was littler. But Ma said they must divide it evenly. It was very good. That is Laura churning. What is she doing with that? When the cream was ready, Ma scalded the long wooden churn dash, put it in the churn, and dropped the wooden churn cover over it. The churn cover had a little round hole in the middle, and Ma moved the dash up and down, up and down, and up and down through the hole. She churned for a long time. Mary could sometimes churn while Ma rested, but the dash was too heavy for Laura. At first, the splashes of cream showed thick and smooth around the little hole. After a while, they began to look grainy. Then Ma churned more slowly, and on the dash there began to appear tiny grains of yellow butter. When Ma took off the churn cover, there was the butter in a golden lump, drowning in buttermilk. And that's where buttermilk comes from. Then Ma took out the lump with a wooden paddle into a wooden bowl, and she washed it many times in cold water, turning it over and over and working with it, the paddle, until the water ran clear. After that, she salted it. Now came the part of the churning. Ma molded the butter. Now came the best part of the churning. Ma molded the butter. On the loose bottom of the wooden butter mold was carved the picture of a strawberry with 2 strawberry leaves. When the paddle, Ma packed butter tightly into the mold until it was full. Then she turned it upside down over a plate and pushed on the handle of the loose bottom. The little firm pat of golden butter came out with the strawberry and its leaves molded on the top. Laura and Mary watched breathless, one on each side of Ma, while the golden little butter pats, each with its strawberry on the top, dropped into the plate as Ma put all the butter through the mold. Then Ma gave them each a drink of good, fresh buttermilk. On Saturdays, when Ma made the bread, they each had a little piece of dough to make into a little loaf. They might have a bit of cookie dough too to make little cookies. And once Laura even made a pie in her patty pan. After the day's work was done, Ma sometimes cut paper dolls for them. She cut the dolls out of stiff white paper and drew the faces with a pencil. Then from the bits of colored paper, she cut dresses and hats and ribbons and laces so that Mary and Laura could dress their dolls beautifully. But the best time of all was at night when Pa came home. He would come in from his trapping through the snowy woods with tiny icicles hanging on the ends of his mustache. He would hang his gun on the wall over the door, throw off his fur cap and coat and mittens, and call, "Where's my little half pint of sweet cider half drunk up?" That was Laura, because she was so small. Laura and Mary would run to climb on his knee and sit there while he warmed himself by the fire. Then he would put on his coat and cap and mittens again and go out to do the chores and bring in plenty of wood for the fire. Sometimes when Pa had walked his trap lines quickly because the traps were empty, or when he got out some games sooner than usual, he would come home early. Then he would have time to play with Laura and Mary. One game they loved was called the Mad Dog. Pa would run his fingers through his thick brown hair, standing it up on end. Then he dropped on all fours and growling, he chased Laura and Mary all around the room, trying to get them cornered where they couldn't get away. They were quick at dodging and running, but once he caught them against the wood box behind the stove, they couldn't get past Pa, and there was no other way out. Then Pa growled so terribly, his hair was so wild and his eyes so fierce that it all seemed real. Mary was so frightened that she could not move. But as Pa came nearer, Laura screamed, and with a wild leap and a scramble, she went over the wood box, dragging Mary with her. And at once, there was no Mad Dog at all. There was only Pa standing there with his blue eyes shining, looking at Laura. "Well," he said to her, "you're only a little half pint of cider, half drunk up, but by jinks, you're as strong as a little French horse." "You shouldn't frighten the children so, Charles," Ma said. "Look how big their eyes are." Pa looked, and then he looked down. He took down his fiddle and began to play and sing. Yankee Doodle went to town. He wore his striped trousies. He swore he couldn't see the town. There were so many housies. Laura and Mary forgot all about the Mad Dog. And there he saw some great big guns, big as log of maple, and every time they turned him around, it took a yoke of cattle. And every time they fired him off, it took a horn of powder. It made a noise like Father's gun, only a nation louder. Pa was keeping time with his foot. There's Pa, doing the wild dog. Look at him. Ah! Pa was keeping time with his foot, and Laura clapped her hands to the music when he sang. And I'll sing Yankee Doodle-dee-doo, and I'll sing Yankee Doodle, and I'll sing Yankee Doodle-dee-doo, and I'll sing Yankee Doodle. All alone in the wild big woods, in the snow and the cold, the little log house was warm and snug and cozy. Pa and Ma and Mary and Laura and baby Carrie were comfortable and happy there, especially at night. Then the fire was shining on the hearth, and the cold and the dark and the wild beasts were all shut out, and Jack the brindle bulldog and Black Susan the cat lay blinking at the flames at the fireplace. Ma sat in her rocking chair, sewing by the light of the lamp on the table. The lamp was bright and shiny. There was salt in the bottom of his glass bowl with the kerosene to keep the kerosene from exploding. Oh my. And there were bits of red flannel among the salt to make it pretty. It was pretty. Laura loved to look at the lamp with its glass chimney so clean and sparkling, its yellow flame burning so steadily, and its bowl of clear kerosene colored red with the bits of flannel. She loved to look at the fire in the fireplace, flickering and changing all the time, burning yellow and red and sometimes green above the logs, and hovering blue over the golden and ruby coals. And then Pa told stories. And I'm going to stop here, pick up later. Love you guys.